The red star burned low over the shattered mining station, casting long shadows across the cold metal corridors. Sparks flew from broken panels, and the hum of failing machinery filled the air. Somewhere deep inside the station something moved. A presence so massive and terrifying that the entire station seemed to shiver. Varkisser, the fury-chained dragon, stretched its enormous wings, each membrane marked with scars of countless battles. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, and every breath it drew rattled the steel chains that held it in place. These chains were not ordinary, they were forged by an ancient alien empire, powered by gravity and alien energy, designed to contain monsters like it forever. Yet even in chains, Varkisser radiated rage. Every soldier, engineer, and worker who had ever approached it knew the truth. This dragon hated all sentient life. Centuries of captivity had not softened it. Every attack it had suffered, every species that had tried to dominate it, had only built the fire inside. Its psychic screams could shatter minds. The few who survived said the sound was like the cracking of 1,000 worlds at once. No one dared speak near it, and no one dared look into its eyes. The station's security systems were failing. Lights flickered, and alarms shrieked as emergency power kicked in. The dragon sensed the weakening of its bonds and roared, a sound that echoed through the hollow chambers and even vibrated the station's outer hull. Cries of fear and panic rose from the few workers left. Some covered their ears, some ran blindly toward safety, but all knew that the station would not survive another attack. Amid this chaos, a human transport ship arrived unexpectedly. Its engines hummed softly, almost like a whisper against the dragon's roar. The docking bay opened with a loud clang and soldiers stepped in, expecting a routine transfer. They were wrong. Among the newcomers was a small human boy named Aaron Hale. He was quiet, with dark hair falling into his eyes, and he moved carefully, almost as if he feared making a sound that might anger the station's silent master. He had no weapons, no technology, nothing that could protect him from a dragon that had destroyed fleets for sport. He was nothing but a human, fragile and small. The soldiers moved quickly to secure the new arrivals, shouting orders. Panic filled the room. The dragon's chains rattled in response, sensing new life. Its eyes fixed on the smallest figure, glowing brighter with every heartbeat. All the other humans cowered, but Aaron didn't move backward. Something inside him drew him forward, even as his heart pounded. He walked down the long metal corridor, past sparks and fallen crates. He could feel the heat radiating from the dragon even through the reinforced walls. The hum of ancient energy thrummed under his feet. And then he heard it, not a roar, not a scream, but something beneath it. A deep, mournful sound, like a cry for help hidden inside anger. No one else noticed it. No one else could feel it. But Aaron did. It stirred something in him he could not explain. He remembered stories his mother had told him, of dragons not as monsters but as creatures capable of feelings, of loyalty, of pain. He had never believed them fully, but now, as he stared at the enormous, chained creature before him, something inside him whispered that the stories might be true. The soldiers shouted, "Stay back. Do not approach." But Aaron kept walking. His small hands trembled. He could see the dragon's teeth, long and jagged, and the heat of its breath made the air shimmer. Its eyes were fixed on him now, and he felt the weight of centuries of rage pressing down. The chains glowed bright as if warning him to stop. Every instinct told him to run. But Aaron didn't. He knelt on the cold metal floor and stared up at Varkisser. The dragon lowered its massive head, tilting it slightly as if surprised that the smallest creature had not screamed or cried or begged for life. The silence between them was so heavy that it seemed to crush the very air. Sparks fell from the ceiling and the chains rattled once more, but the dragon did not attack. It only watched. Aaron spoke softly, almost a whisper. "I know you are tired. I know you are hurt." His voice trembled, but it carried through the chamber. He had no plan, no weapon, no protection. He only had his voice, and he had a strange, desperate hope that it could reach the creature. The dragon growled low in its throat, a sound that shook the walls, but it did not move. The guards and soldiers froze, unsure if the dragon would strike. No human had ever dared approach it alone, and certainly not with words. Aaron kept talking. He told the dragon about his life, about fear, about loneliness, about loss. He spoke of things humans often kept hidden, feelings that other species did not understand. He told the dragon, "I know what it is to be chained by something you cannot fight. I know what it is to want freedom more than anything else." Varkisser tilted its head closer. Its golden eyes softened just slightly, and the chains creaked under the pressure of its shifting weight. Something that had been buried for centuries, a spark of recognition, flickered inside the dragon. It was not forgiveness, not yet, but it was something new. A pause, a hesitation, a curiosity. Aaron's small hands reached toward the dragon, though he did not touch it. He simply held out his presence, offering something the dragon had never received in its long life: acknowledgement without fear, without threat. The air vibrated with tension but also with possibility. The alarms continued to blare, the lights flickered, and the soldiers prepared for the inevitable. They did not know that this human boy, quiet and fragile, was doing something no fleet, no weapon, no alien power had ever done. He was talking to the Fury Chain Dragon, and for the first time in history it was listening. The dragon's massive chest rose and fell slowly. Its claws scraped the floor, leaving marks in the metal. It roared again, but this time the sound was mixed with curiosity and confusion. And Aaron, kneeling there, continued to speak, his voice small but unwavering. No one could know what would happen next. The chains glowed brighter, threatening to snap. The station trembled. The galaxy so far away waited for the news of destruction. But in that moment, a fragile human boy and the most hated dragon in the stars were beginning something that no one had ever imagined. A connection that might change everything. Aaron sat on the cold metal floor, staring up at the massive dragon. Varkisser's golden eyes followed his every movement. Its wings were stretched wide, each flap sending tremors through the station. The chains that held it in place creaked and glowed, warning that any sudden move could snap them and tear the room apart. Yet the dragon did not strike. It only watched, its breathing heavy, its roar echoing in a low, uncertain rhythm. Aaron's heart pounded. He could feel the heat radiating off the dragon's scales, smell the smoke that clung to its body, and hear the slow, powerful beat of its heart. He was terrified, but he did not move back. Instead, he took a deep breath and began to hum. It was a small tune, soft and trembling at first. A human lullaby his mother had sung long ago on nights when the stars outside the window seemed too far and too cold. He had not sung in front of anyone in years. He did not know why the words came now, only that something inside him demanded it. The dragon tilted its massive head. Its ears flicked in a way that suggested curiosity. It had never heard music like this. Aliens, humans, or any other species had tried many things to calm it: machines, weapons, psychic amplifiers, but nothing had worked. And now, a small human boy, weak and unarmed, was singing. Aaron closed his eyes. The song was shaky at first, a whisper of a melody floating over the echoes of the dragon's roars. But he kept going. He sang about fear, about loss, about nights when the stars seemed too far and the world felt empty. His voice was not powerful or clear, but it was honest. Every note carried his heart, every pause carried his hope. Varkisser's roar faded, replaced by a low, rumbling growl. The chains rattled as the dragon shifted its weight, unsure. Its massive claws scraped the floor, leaving deep grooves in the metal. The heat in the room increased, but the dragon did not breathe fire. It was listening. It had never listened before. The other humans and soldiers froze. They had come prepared for violence, not for a small child's voice to challenge a Fury Chain Dragon. No one moved. They dared not. Even the loudest machinery seemed to quiet, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Aaron continued. He sang about things only humans understood: pain, hope, loneliness, courage in the face of impossible odds. He did not ask the dragon to obey him. He did not threaten it or try to control it. He simply shared what he felt. The melody wound through the chamber, soft but persistent, gentle but strong. Varkisser shifted again. Its massive chest rose and fell, slow and heavy. For the first time in centuries, it remembered something it had long forgotten: the sound of care, of connection, of a life that was not full of fire and pain. Its psychic senses, used to sensing fear and aggression, felt a strange calm wash over it. The chains groaned as they absorbed the dragon's growing tension. Sparks flew from broken links. The dragon's claws dug into the floor, yet it did not attack. Its eyes softened slightly, flickering between suspicion and something else, something it could not name. Aaron opened his eyes and looked directly into Varkisser's face. "You are not just fire and rage," he said softly. "You are hurt. You are lonely. You want to be free. I know how that feels." His words were simple, but they carried truth. He did not expect the dragon to understand, but something in the ancient creature stirred. The dragon lowered its massive head, bringing its snout closer to the boy. Its glowing eyes studied him, watching his every breath, every heartbeat, every trembling finger. Sparks from the chains lit the space between them, but the dragon did not strike. It only shifted slightly, as if weighing a choice it had never considered. Aaron's song grew stronger. He had been scared at first, but now he felt a strange confidence. The dragon was not attacking. It was listening. And listening was enough. He sang about trust, about friendship, about hope in the darkest night. His voice filled the chamber, small against the dragon's size, but enormous in courage. Varkisser's roar returned, but it was different. It was lower, almost questioning. The dragon's wings twitched, sending a gust of hot wine through the room. Sparks flew from the chains as they resisted the dragon's weight, warning that it could break free at any moment. But still it did not attack. It only tilted its head and listened. The other humans stared in disbelief. None of them could believe that a single human child was holding the attention of the most hated dragon in the galaxy. They whispered, wondering if the boy was mad or if the dragon was mad, or if the impossible had just begun. Aaron finished the lullaby, letting the last note hang in the air. Silence followed. The dragon exhaled a long, deep breath that shook the walls. Its eyes, once filled with hate and fury, now held a glimmer of something new: curiosity, recognition, and perhaps understanding. For a moment no one moved. No alarms blared. No chains rattled. The station felt suspended in time. And then the dragon shifted again, not to attack, but to lean slightly toward the boy. Sparks flew from the glowing chains, but the dragon's massive head remained lowered. It had not chosen obedience, not yet, but it had chosen to listen. Aaron smiled faintly, exhausted but relieved. He had no idea what would come next, only that the dragon was different now. It was not just a fury chain monster anymore. It was a creature capable of change, capable of choice, capable of something that no alien empire, no weapon, no cage could ever force. And somewhere deep in Varkisser's mind, a thought began to form. A tiny spark of recognition that maybe, just maybe, this small, fragile human was not like the rest. Maybe this human could reach what no other species had ever touched. The station still trembled, the chains still glowed, and the galaxy still waited. But in that chamber, a small human boy and the most hated dragon in the stars had begun something new. Something impossible. Something no one would ever forget. The alarms blared louder than ever. Red lights flashed across the failing station as the fleet outside prepared to strike. The galaxy had decided. The station was too dangerous, the dragon too powerful, and the boy, too human. Every officer on the command ships wanted him gone. They called him a threat, a weak species meddling with forces far beyond their understanding. Aaron stayed on the floor, his small body trembling but his eyes fixed on the dragon. Varkisser's golden gaze never left him. The dragon's chains glowed violently, straining against its massive weight. Sparks flew across the floor as the creature shifted, wings stretching wider, filling the chamber with heat and shadow. No one had seen a dragon react like this. Usually, it would destroy everything in sight when threatened. But now, it protected a human. Outside the station, the fleet prepared to fire. Energy beams charged, ready to tear the station apart. Commanders argued, calling for more weapons, more soldiers, more force. They did not know what they faced. They had never seen a fury chain dragon protect a human instead of destroying one. Inside, Aaron rose to his feet. His voice shook as he spoke. Please, don't hurt them. He looked at the dragon, then at the approaching fleet. We don't want to fight. We only want to survive. The dragon growled, a low rumbling sound that shook the walls. Its wings beat, sending gusts that knocked equipment off the walls. Sparks jumped from the chains, warning of imminent danger. But the dragon did not move to attack the boy. Instead, it crouched slightly, a shield of claws and scales over him. One of the human soldiers tried to reach Aaron, shouting, "Move! Get back! The dragon will kill you." But before he could take a step, Varkisser's massive head swung toward the intruder. The chains rattled, and the dragon let out a roar so loud that it froze everyone in place. The soldier stumbled backward, eyes wide with terror. No human had ever seen the dragon act with such control. The fleet fired. Energy blasts screamed toward the station, striking the outer hull. Explosions rocked the corridors. Fire alarms screamed and metal twisted. But inside, the dragon's body absorbed the worst of it. With wings spread wide, it created a shield of heat and power that deflected the beams. Sparks flew from its scales, but not a drop of fire touched Aaron. Aaron realized the dragon was protecting him. His fear mixed with wonder. The dragon was not obeying orders. It had made its own choice. Every instinct told the boy to run, but he stayed. He raised his voice and began to sing. It was the same lullaby he had sung before. The melody trembled at first, weak against the roar of battle. But the dragon responded. Its ears twitched, eyes fixed on him, and the chains around its massive body began to glow even brighter. Sparks flew, metal bent, but the dragon listened. Outside, the fleet was stunned. Sensors showed the dragon acting strangely. It was defying everything known about its species. Reports streamed back to command. The dragon was not attacking the humans on board. It was using its strength to protect the boy. Panic spread among the commanders. They could not understand how a single human could control a creature that had destroyed fleets. Inside, Aaron sang louder. His voice carried fear, hope, and determination. He was not trying to command the dragon. He was pleading not with words but with music. The dragon's massive chest rose and fell with a rhythm that matched his song. Sparks flew as the chains creaked under the strain of its shifting weight, but the dragon did not break them. It held itself back, holding the boy in the center of its protection. The other humans and soldiers watched in disbelief. Some cried, some whispered, some prayed. No one had ever seen a human act with such courage, standing in front of a fury chain dragon during a bombardment and not running. The impossible was happening before their eyes. The fleet fired again, even closer this time. Beams hit the station walls, ripping metal and throwing debris everywhere. Aaron flinched but did not stop singing. The dragon's wings flapped, knocking energy blasts away, redirecting them into the void of space. No one had ever seen precision like this from a fury chain beast. Commanders outside panicked. "Abort! Abort!" they shouted. "The dragon it's protecting the human." Communications scrambled as officers tried to reassess the threat. But it was too late. Varkisser had already decided. The boy was not to be harmed. Inside, Aaron finished the lullaby. The dragon lowered its head slightly, the golden eyes softening for a moment. Sparks flew from the chains, but they held. The boy stood in the center of the chamber, small and trembling yet safe. The dragon's body shielded him from every blast, every falling beam, every threat. For the first time, the galaxy saw something it had never believed possible. A human controlling nothing with weapons or power, but with courage, heart, and song. Varkisser had chosen the boy. Not out of obedience, not out of fear, but out of something deeper. Aaron whispered, "Thank you." The dragon growled softly, almost like it understood. It lowered its massive wings slightly, wrapping around him like a protective cloak. Sparks from the chains danced across its scales, but it made no move to harm the boy. The fleet, realizing they could not destroy the dragon without killing the boy, pulled back. Confused and fearful, they retreated into space, leaving the station shaken but still standing. The galaxy had learned a new truth: humans were not weak. They could not conquer dragons with weapons, but they could reach them with something no machine or fleet could. Aaron collapsed to the floor, exhausted. Varkisser lowered its massive head, letting the boy rest near its claw. Its eyes glowed softly, not with fury, but with a spark of recognition. It had met a human who did not fear it. It had met someone who sang when everything else screamed. The soldiers stared silently. They did not understand what had happened, and they would never forget. The galaxy had expected destruction, but instead, it had witnessed something impossible: a bond forming between a human boy and the most feared dragon in the stars. The station shuddered, smoke filled the corridors, and sparks danced in the dim red light. But for the first time in centuries, Varkisser had chosen not to kill. It had chosen to protect. And Aaron knew, deep in his heart, that nothing would ever be the same again. The dragon's golden eyes followed him as he whispered, "We are not alone." And in that moment, the fury-chained beast and the fragile human boy became something the galaxy had never seen: partners, friends, and perhaps the start of a new kind of hope. Varkisser landed on the surface of a dead world, its massive wings folding slowly against its body. The ground trembled under its weight, and the air smelled of dust and iron. The planet was empty, lifeless, and quiet, a perfect place for healing and hiding. Aaron stumbled from beneath the dragon's protective claw, brushing ash from his clothes. He looked at the dragon, still chained in spirit even if the physical chains no longer bound it. The boy stepped closer, his small hands reaching toward the dragon's massive scales. Varkisser lowered its head, allowing him to touch it. The scales were warm and rough, each one a map of centuries of pain and survival. Aaron traced a finger along a long scar that ran across the dragon's shoulder, feeling the weight of a life shaped by battle and betrayal. "You've been hurt a lot," Aaron whispered, his voice soft but steady. "And you've carried all that pain alone." The dragon growled, a low sound that vibrated through the ground. It was not anger. It was acknowledgement. For the first time in a lifetime filled with rage and fear, it felt that someone understood. Aaron's presence was not fear, not greed, not command. It was something different. Something simple and human, compassion. Aaron sat down on the dusty ground, letting the dragon settle beside him. The massive creature shifted, curling its body so the boy could sit safely against its claw. Sparks still danced faintly from its chains, but they were powerless now. The dragon had made a choice and it would not break. They spent hours in silence. Aaron did not speak at first. He simply allowed himself to be near the dragon, to feel its breathing, its heartbeat, its massive weight pressing gently against the world. And slowly Varkisser began to understand something about the small human. The boy was not like the others. He did not fight to dominate, he did not seek to control. He only sought to understand. As the sun, or what remained of it, crept across the horizon of the dead world, Aaron began to talk. He told the dragon about his life, about being orphaned, about being small and fragile in a galaxy that feared weakness, about nights alone when the stars seemed too far and too cold. He did not speak to teach or command, he spoke to share. The dragon listened. It did not have ears like a human, but it understood. It had lived for centuries, seen empires rise and fall, felt the weight of chains and death and fire. And yet, it had never heard anything like this. Honest, unarmed words carried not with threat, but with care. Days passed. Aaron fed the dragon water from a small portable container and scraps of preserved food he had brought from the station. The dragon ate slowly, each bite measured and careful. It trusted him. And in return the boy trusted the dragon. They began to move together. The dragon carried him across the planet, soaring into the pale sky when the terrain became harsh. Aaron wrapped his small arms around the base of one massive horn, feeling the wind whip past them, and he laughed for the first time in years. The sound made the dragon's chest rumble in a vibration that felt like amusement, though no one had a word for it. During the flights, Aaron sang again, not just the lullaby but songs of his own making. Each note carried hope, courage, and a promise that neither of them were alone. The dragon's eyes glowed brighter with every melody. The chains had once held its body, but now something far stronger held its mind, trust. Varkisser began to share its memories, not in words, but in images and feelings that Aaron could sense. Scenes of its lost clutch, burned by empires long gone, battles against fleets that had underestimated its strength, moments of solitude in the void with no one to witness its pain. The boy felt everything not with fear but with understanding. And in response he shared more of himself. His dreams, his fears, and his determination to see the galaxy as more than just war and power. The bond grew strong and quiet. Varkisser no longer saw humans as weak as other species claimed. And Aaron no longer saw dragons as monsters. They were partners now, connected by trust, understanding, and the shared knowledge that they could survive together. When scouts from the fleet eventually found them, they expected battle. They expected the fury-chained dragon to strike, to tear apart the intruders. But the dragon did not attack. It spread its massive wings and roared, not in rage but in warning. Any who came too close were blocked by a display of raw power, but none were harmed. Aaron stepped forward, small but unafraid. "We do not want to fight," he said clearly. "We only want to live." The voice of one human carried across the plains, and the fleet hesitated. The dragon did not move to strike because it had chosen to protect him. It would never allow harm to come to this human who had reached the impossible. The fleet withdrew, confused and fearful, and the dead world returned to silence. The boy and the dragon remained together, learning from each other. The galaxy could no longer define humans by their weapons or fleets. Their courage, empathy, and ability to connect had rewritten what it meant to be strong. Night fell and stars appeared faintly in the sky. Aaron lay against the dragon's claw, looking up at the distant points of light. "You're not alone anymore," he whispered. The dragon's massive head lowered closer, golden eyes glimmering softly. It understood completely. They had survived, not through force, not through destruction, but through trust. A bond had formed, unbroken by chains or fear, and it was a bond that would change the galaxy forever. The fury-chained dragon had chosen a human, and in doing so, it had chosen something far greater than power, connection. Aaron closed his eyes and drifted to sleep, still leaning against the dragon's claw. Varkisser curled around him protectively, scales warm and steady. In that quiet, lifeless world they were no longer a boy and a dragon. They were a team, a new force in the galaxy. One that no empire, no fleet, no hatred could ever undo. And somewhere deep in the universe the first ripple of change began. Years had passed since the galaxy first saw the human boy and the fury-chained dragon together. Stories spread across star systems like fire through dry grass. Humans were no longer seen as weak, fragile creatures. They were remembered for something far greater, courage, empathy, and the power to change the impossible. Erend Hale had grown taller, his voice stronger, his presence calm yet firm. He traveled with Varkisser, now free of all chains, soaring through the stars, visiting worlds that had once feared humans and dragons alike. Everywhere they went, eyes widened in disbelief. Aliens had trained to fear humans, to see them as fragile and unarmed. Now they saw humans not as conquerors but as mediators, healers, and friends of the impossible. Varkisser had become a legend. Its name was whispered in reverence, not terror. Tales of the dragon protecting a human boy against entire fleets were told to children across countless worlds. And yet, it was not fear that defined these stories, it was hope. The galaxy had learned that the smallest, seemingly weakest being could carry the greatest power, a heart willing to reach out when all else failed. Erend and Varkisser were invited to councils of species that had once hunted dragons. Leaders listened when the boy spoke, not because he commanded armies, but because he had earned respect through courage and kindness. Varkisser stood silently behind him, massive wings folded, eyes glowing gently. No weapons, no threats, no fleets, just presence, wisdom, and a bond that could not be broken. On a world once scarred by war, Erend sang again. The song was no longer a lullaby of fear or hope. It was a song of memory, of what had been learned through struggle. Aliens listened with ears and hearts, and even those who had hated humans began to understand. Music carried across the plains, gentle but unstoppable, carrying the truth of humanity to all who would hear. Children on distant planets painted murals of a small boy standing beneath a massive dragon, their hands tracing the lines of scales and wings. Stories were taught in schools, not as myths or fantasies but as history. Humans had saved not just themselves, but the galaxy from its fear of dragons. They had rewritten the rules without killing a single soul. Erend had never sought power. He did not ask for titles or recognition. He only wanted to continue reaching out, understanding creatures that others deemed impossible. Varkisser became his guardian, his partner, and his friend, traveling beside him as proof that connection could achieve what violence never could. One day they returned to the ruins of the mining station where it had all begun. The place was quiet now, abandoned and scarred. The chains that had held Varkisser were gone, melted into nothing by time and energy. Erend walked slowly along the corridors, touching the walls, remembering the fear and chaos that had once filled them. Varkisser lowered its head, resting beside him, its massive eyes reflecting the dim starlight. "This is where it started," Erend whispered. "Where you first listened, and where I first learned what it meant to reach out." The dragon made a low, rumbling sound, a sound that had once been fury but now carried understanding. It had remembered, and in remembering, it had chosen humanity over hatred. Across the galaxy, humans were remembered not for fleets or weapons, but for their ability to heal what others had broken. Entire species began to change. Aliens who had once hunted dragons learned to negotiate and communicate. Civilizations began to grow not through conquest, but through understanding. The boy and the dragon had shown the galaxy that strength was not measured in firepower, but in courage, empathy, and trust. Statues were built on planets where humans had once been considered weak. A small boy with dark hair reached toward a massive dragon, wings folded and eyes glowing golden. Children visited these monuments, singing songs passed down through generations, songs that had once calmed a fury-chained dragon. Erend never forgot that first day, kneeling on the cold metal floor, staring up at a creature that could have ended his life in a heartbeat. He remembered fear, hope, and the strange power of song. And he remembered the choice Varkisser had made, to protect him, to believe in him, to see the humanity in one small fragile boy. Varkisser soared through the stars beside him, not as a weapon, but as proof of what could happen when someone chose connection over destruction. The galaxy watched, learned, and slowly remembered what humans could do. They did not conquer. They healed. They inspired. They reached into places no one else could touch and made the impossible possible. In the quiet moments between stars, Erend sang softly. The dragon curled around him, massive and still, listening. The song carried across empty space, touching distant worlds, reminding every being that even the fiercest anger could be softened by understanding. And somewhere, deep in the stars, the galaxy remembered the small human boy who had sung to a fury-chained dragon, and the lesson that even the smallest heart could change the universe forever. The galaxy no longer feared humans. It respected them, remembered them. And in the memory of a boy, a song, and a dragon, the stars learned the true strength of humanity, not in what they could destroy but in what they could save.